for the last 3 hours, and I begin to wonder where 3 hours goes on a program like this. Delighted to welcome Michael Ruane. I've just said he's back to his fighting weight after his time of his mare. He said, I didn't lose my fighting weight ever. Michael Carr, of the SDLP, that wonderful what would one call it? A sacrificial party that allowed the growth of Sinn Féin to come along. Yeah. We could talk about that
off on the
in another. We could talk about for ages in another forum on that. And the man there of Ulster Unionism, Mike. That's David Taylor. You were his deputy mayor.
That's correct.
How did you get on, the pair of you together?
Yeah, we worked very well together, I have to say. Now.
In meaningful things.
Yes, we are. I know people. We are from different political spectrums, I suppose, but we'll certainly get on and we'll work together for the betterment of everybody and
Michael?
represent everybody.
Listen, we didn't have to be mayor and deputy mayor to prove that we could work together. I think collectively as a council, you know, regardless of what people think up there, we do work together for the better of the area.
Yeah. And of course, David, you can't eat flags, so you're going to go and support Haas.
Listen, as long as the flag's flung respectfully, that's all I want.
That's all anybody wants, isn't it?
Exactly.
It really, really is. That's a lovely statement. Yeah. As long as a flag is flown respectfully, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Well done, sir. Yeah. You wouldn't disagree with that.
No, definitely not.
Perfect. That's it. Michael, you're in there. Lovely to see you. Michael Carr.
You too, Ron.
You're as busy as ever doing the things you do, both in council and outside council.
Well, we're kept busy, particularly now fulfilling the two functions of the Newry and Mourne Council and the new Super Council, so we're kept busy.
Yeah.
Can
we make an agreement, or maybe it's too soon to make the agreement, Michael? We'll not call it a Super Council anymore. It's our new council.
Yeah, it is our new council.
You know, and we're going to get into the way of it. Everybody, it's not just Michael's calls it the Super Council. Everybody's calling it Super. It's not. It's just another council. But are we going to be a council of little spaces? There'll be those who look after Strangford, those who look after Downpatrick, those who look after Newcastle, those who look after Crossmaglen, those who look after Brett. Are we going to be segmented, or can this be brought together?
Well, that will be one of the major challenges of the council, to make sure that parochialism doesn't be prevalent in it, that we are looking after the better interests of all the district rather than looking after our piecemeal parts.
But realistically, boys, you know nothing about Strangford, and you know nothing about Downpatrick. Well, in council terms of the bric-a-brac and the detail of getting things done.
But then again, that shows part of the problem that there was with RPA, and we are what they are.
What's RPA?
The Review of Public Administration.
Oh, yeah.
We are where we are in terms of where the council that we're now, all three of us have been elected to.
Yeah.
But one of the difficulties that we saw with the proposals was that it took away the local context of local councils.
Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whilst it's something that we will try to avoid, there's no question about that. We have a governance committee at the moment, and they're looking at that, the whole structures within the council, first of all. And we don't try to be parochial, but inevitably, I suppose we all fall into that trap. And like David says, one of the big issues that the whole review has taken on, we're smaller fish in a bigger pool, and that's the bottom. That's the bottom line.
Of all the councillors yet, Michael, have you all, the new council, have you got together for a dinner together, sitting down across the table and then mingling and talking? Well, you get to know Paddy, Paddy gets to know you.
We do that at every meeting, because we have 4 committees at this moment in time, plus the main council meeting, and prior to the meetings and after the meetings we do mingle. We are getting to know each other. I maybe don't share the same concerns as both David and Michael here regarding the size of the new council, because I think even if you take Newry and Mourne, we all were from different parts in Newry and Mourne. Although we looked at the collective of Newry and Mourne, we also looked after our home patches, you would call it. And I think we'll continue to do that. I'm from Crotleave area of the new council. I'll continue to serve Crotleave, and within that I'll continue to serve Warren Point, and then collectively I'll serve the new Newry and Mourne Down Council. So
but if
I can see that's changing.
If a wee woman from Crotleave comes to you and wants your help, and another wee woman comes to you from Portaferry and wants your help, is there a dilemma? Who do you help?
There's no dilemma.
You help both?
No, well, what I do is I pass it on to my colleague who serves the Portaferry area.
So you have the so it's going to shake.
Well, Portaferry's not actually in our area.
I think what I mean, Ruane, is in terms of the fact that we all have DEAs to represent. I represent Slieve Gully and South Armagh. You know, and that's my first dedication and first interest. But I think when it comes to maybe big decisions in terms of where investment goes, as a council, and where particular responsibilities and things are, that's where you'll see the type of parochialism that may arise. But we have to raise
starting off, where's the headquarters going to be?
Well, that's a big issue. And
are we anywhere close to an answer to that?
Well, we hope so, that there will be something within a few weeks, a decision.
For us, it'll come here. That'll be to our benefit here.
Well, we hope that there will be some, there will be certainly some presence in Uri. There's no doubt about that.
Some presence in Uri.
We'd hope it certainly the administration end of things. But
Downpatrick took a great leap of faith in the amount of money it spent on its place on the Strangford Road.
Yeah. I wouldn't be overly concerned with it, to be honest. And we have a full council meeting tonight of the new council, and at that meeting, which has been followed on from a governance committee meeting, there is recommendations going tonight which will put Newry as the new administration headquarters of the new council. The chief executive will be based in Newry. The new mayor will be based in Newry. So, and the different directorships will be evenly spread across the two council areas that are the old areas. And plus planning, which is one of the major functions we're getting as a new council, is also going to be based in Newry. So I don't see it as a problem at all. I think Newry will be very much to the fore.
Have you done the number crunching on it? And are you going to carry the day when this...
Well, it carried at the governance committee.
It was carried at the governance.
To be fair, there was quite a number of councillors that weren't of the old Newry and Mourne Council, that were of the old Down Council, and everybody was in agreement with what was put on the table.
Newry has so much going for it, boys. Sorry, Michael.
Well, I think there is agreement there that services should be shared between the two. But there is a big issue still rolling on throughout Newry that we have been gazumped to a certain degree.
By?
Well, by the development of the new offices and the new centre, the new council offices in Downpatrick. I think there's also a number of issues, and we had before us in Newry and Mourne Council last night a notice of motion that we should push to have a new civic centre and office accommodation that will accommodate what we have here. It's not fit for purpose.
But Michael, it's maybe not the wisest thing to be shouting about office accommodation up on Daisy Hill because of the debacle over the very expensive seating that was going to be put in for 9 months.
Well, part of the reason for dropping this very expensive seating was that that money should be invested into a new centre, and that's the argument that won the day. As we sit now, the new council, the new Newry, Mourne and Down Council cannot meet in Newry.
No, as it is.
As it is at the moment, and that's a failure.
Maybe Downpatrick weren't so busy as that they had time to develop this other nonsense, dare I say that. If you were so busy looking after the people, you didn't have time to sit down and have your gin and tonic and think about how are we going to make the new headquarters best and to ensure that we get it.
I think that's taking a very optimistic or rosy point of view on it, but it's, I don't think that was the case. I think there was maybe a lack of foresight on everybody's behalf. In terms of, I think there was a too laid back attitude, and we as councillors have to take responsibility for that as well.
So are you going to cover in the Albert Basin, and are you going to put the new headquarters on the Albert Basin?
Well, the Albert Basin again is an issue where the council has hasn't been active enough. It's lay dormant for many years now.
And you had the opportunity at the time you wanted to develop, and Jared Air, for one, spent close on $1 million to try and tell you what to do with it. I personally went to New York to interview Daniel Liebeskind, the architect of the new World Tower. He had designed it for you, but something went wrong at the council and the tendering process was declared null and void.
Well, it's an area that should be used for economic and social regeneration, and it's going to be incumbent upon us as a new council, because that's really where it will be decided as a new council, to move forward as quickly as possible with proposals and ideas in terms of how we do regenerate that area, because it does need to be regenerated. There's no doubt about that, and it can't lay dormant as a stands.
Is the water safe, Michael? The council owns the surrounding area and the land, and that's there for doing things with. But the dreadful thought of people who are talking about it is that somehow the water of the canal at the Albert Basin, that our maritime heritage will be forgotten about, will be shunted sideways.
I don't see that as a problem at all, because in the last 2 years we've held the triathlon
Ah, fantastic.
Which
yes.
part of that there, the swim was in the canal.
Absolutely.
Our environmental department checked the water at all times.
Water's
and
beautiful.
Back clear. Yeah, so it's not a problem. And actually the triathlon showed the potential of the area and the potential of the city centre itself. And it's how we build on that there. And just to follow on what David has said, totally back him. As a new council, I've no doubt we would be sitting down, and we do need to come up with a proposal and a shared space, as he has already said, that is both our civic, community and whatever else uses we can find for it.
I think I recall somebody saying that as a consequence of a recent meeting, your chief executive said it was on the market. Maybe he was talking about Jennings Park. Anyway, I withdraw what I've just said there, but I'll ask it in a different way. Is it for sale to the highest bidder?
Nothing's for sale, no.
Nothing?
No. Basically, I think people are getting ahead of themselves, because we as a new council will have to sit down and decide what we do with all the assets, and not just in Uri City but throughout the whole district. So it's a learning process, because while we know what's in Uri and the Uri and Mourne area, we're not up to speed on what's in the new council area, and likewise the councillors from that area.
Michael,
it's a learning process.
You're a one point man. Is your heart in any sense in Uri, in the water of the basin?
My heart most definitely is Mourne Point. I don't deny that in any shape or form. But listen, Uri City, we're very lucky to have it on our doorstep. You know, it's only, I'm a Mourne Point man, it's only 5 miles up the road from us. We have the best shopping you could want. Uri offers you everything you would want, and we would like to see that built upon. If I'm away anywhere, I will sell Uri as best and as good as any person from Uri.
Can we talk about the quays and the butter crane? Because on a programme here a week ago, a member of James McAreevy of the Newry Maritime Association heavily criticised the butter crane and the quays as having done nothing for the area, didn't put in sufficient car parking, that people in the West Ward were trapped in their homes. Is this a take you have on it?
No. There has been difficulties with parking within that area. There's no doubt about that. But
so, are you castigating the quays and the butter crane in the same way as Mr. McAreevy?
Let me finish, Ron. There has been issues with parking, and there's no doubt about that. But to say that they've added nothing or contributed nothing to area is complete nonsense. They've provided substantial employment. They've encouraged people from many towns and villages across the island of Ireland to come and visit Newry and see all that's good about Newry. So there's no, for anybody to say that haven't contributed anything to the city, it's complete nonsense.
Michael?
No, I agree with David. I think that, the butter crane many years ago, I featured in an advertisement for that when it first opened. The quays, and particularly the canal court, I have to say, were the catalyst for where Newry is today. And it's got an awful lot going for it, given its geographic location between the two cities and so on.
I'm thinking specifically of the criticism of the quays and the butter crane. Is that something you would reject?
I would reject, yes. I think both shopping centres have created Newry as a shopping capital in Ireland. Like, I mean, people come from all over Ireland to shop in Newry. So the attraction is there. And let's not forget, all of the, particularly when the Euro was a wee bit weaker, all the shopping activity that we had, Newry was booming when everywhere else was suffering. The other thing I would say to you, Rowan, too, about the Albert Basin, I share your concerns about the fact that it was never fully developed. I was mayor in April 2007 when the development brief was launched. I launched it myself. And we really were very optimistic in Newry, in the council, what was going to happen and so on. And because of some legalistic procedures that we got caught up in, and I'm not sure how great they would have stood up in court, but because of some advices, eventually the cards started tumbling down. And, the ideas that were there at that time, the films that were produced, narrated by yourself.
Indeed,
I remember seeing one.
I did.
Were absolutely classic.
So, I remember. Yeah.
The Albert Basin could be the jewel in the crown.
Absolutely.
But we've really got to give it some serious consideration. And there's a lot more interest in it from a community point of view. There's a lot more people want a location on it and so on. And all of that has to be fitted in But I think the new council will do that and look at it.
Michael, where are you on the criticisms of the quays and the butter crane?
I think it's unwise of anyone to criticise either shopping centre, just as simple as that. I'm sure the views the two fellas have already expressed, no point in me rehashing it.
You must be terribly chuffed at the moment. Last Sunday's Sunday Independent front page, the growth of Sinn Féin in the Republic. You've jumped high. You're in the position now of being the key partner in any coalition that might come along. That's how well the poll has put you. Does it surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's at the end of the day, it's only a poll. There'll be many more of them. They seem to come out every couple of weeks these days, but the only tallying poll will be the poll on the day of an election, and that's when it'll count. But it's good to see, and as a party it gives you plenty of a lift, particularly with all the bad press that was put out there over the last number of weeks.
Well, that hasn't gone away because Mr. Adams, he slipped in popularity. Will there come a time when he's a burden to the party?
No, he's not a burden to the party at all. You know, he quite clearly has led the party for many, many years. He still leads it. I think the person himself will know when it's time to go. The party membership are fully behind him and support him. You
don't see the kind of all the shrapnel surrounding the rape thing of Maria Cahill and all of that as eventually going to wear him down?
No, not at all. Because listen, the news media.
It's not the media. Come on.
News media, print media.
Come on, Michael, it's not the media.
The news media, the print media will throw all they can at us and will continue to throw on.
No, that's not true. You guys walk tall at the moment, for goodness sake. It's a joy to have you
sitting in here. If you're going to ask me a question, at least let me answer it.
You may answer now, please.
And you started off the conversation by introducing Michael as the party who gave us a foot up. Nobody gives Sinn Féin a foot up on anything. Anything that we've gained, anything we have gained as a party, we've gained it because of the hard work we do on the ground for our constituents.
You were immersed in association with an organisation, I'm saying carefully now, an association with, by words of support, for an organisation who espoused violence. And John Hume and Gerry Adams sat down and moved the thing forward. In the moving of it forward, Hume knew instinctively he was possibly cutting his own political throat. Am I wrong here, Michael?
No, I think you're right. I think there were big sacrifices made to, you know, as it was described at that time, bring people in from the cold and get them involved in you know, in politics. You know, the peace process has been a big success. There's no question about it. The way we can walk around the streets compared to what it was in the 70s and 80s. So we have come a long way. I agree that people along the way made major sacrifices. And I also think that you're right. No matter what story comes out, what negative story, bad story or whatever, it's just a media rant at Sinn Féin, and they seem to be able to handle it. They rise on the wave of negativity. So, you know, I don't particularly want to get into
that's not why we're here.
The micropolitics of the whole thing. But yes, they can do no wrong. And I mean, there are some
certainly in the eyes of the Republic's electorate at the moment. That opinion poll is anything like right. You're doing a lot of things right.
Well, as I going back and I said earlier on, it's about what we do on the ground as elected representatives, as party members. We provide for the people we represent, and while we continue to do that, then the polls will show that.
Okay. Where do we go? I haven't forgotten about you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where do we go? Where do we go in relation to Jennings Park? The people don't want it sold as a health hub or anything else. They want it retained as a green space. Yea or nay to that?
I think it's very clear it's coming back that the people don't want it to happen, and I don't foresee it happening. And I think what we need to see from the outset is that the developer come to the council and made a presentation to the council. The council, the first thing the local councillors requested was that a consultation with the local residents would take place, and that was to garner the views of them. And from what we can see from the local press, the responses have been completely negative to it, and I think that's where it'll finish.
That's where it'll finish. Michael Carr?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was the consultation. The council had agreed that in principle they would sell it if it was the best place for the health hub to be developed with its vicinity to Daisy Hill and so on. But part of that agreement would be a consultation, and maybe this is an example of where consultation is being listened to.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a question of just taking Jennings Park and giving it to the developer to complete the village. It was being replaced by 2 or 3 football fields with, you know, but apparently that...
But oddly enough, people aren't talking about football fields. People are talking about green space.
Absolutely.
Which is a different concept,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and you can't get any new stuff. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone, it's gone. David, we're heading towards the 11th Sunday of the 11th month at the 11th hour, as close as we can get to it. Yeah. That's next
the
Sunday coming.
Yeah.
Once again, the service at the Cenotaph will be marked. It will occur with dignity, and people will be there remembering. And this year, an Irish government representative will walk in Whitehall, remembering as well. The Irish ambassador to London will be there. It takes the sting, and the Chief Minister would see it as a sting, out of the Irish government having a say in our developmental processes at Stormont, in their part of the consultations, part of the language of debate for the future.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, Ruane.
Do you want the Irish to stay at home and mind their own business?
Listen, the Irish government will have a role to play in the talks. But in terms of when it comes to discussing the internal affairs of Northern Ireland, that will be a responsibility solely for local politicians.
Yes. But that's no different to the Anglo-Irish Agreement,
and the British government.
Isn't it where we were with the Anglo-Irish?
And I don't think there should be any linkage between Remembrance Sunday and any participation of an Irish government representative and the talks that take place.
Well, we're breaking new ground if we have got the Irish ambassador to London.
We're in a situation here where for years, for reasons linked to the Troubles and the Troubles that we had as a country in Northern Ireland, as an island as a whole, where people, you know, didn't acknowledge the role that maybe their forefathers or past family members had played in the war. Yes. I think it's important that people do remember that it was members of both religions and both countries that served during the wars. You know, it wasn't just the Protestant men from Northern Ireland went to serve. It was Protestant and Catholics. And
the Irish regiment.
It's important that people do remember that and that people are given the opportunity to do that.
Does this sit easily with you, Michael?
I have no problem with anybody commemorating their war dead. That's a given. As I say myself, I have my own opinions on it, but I just think in some cases people are too quick to force it down other people's throats. I think in time people can look back on their history of their own particular families, and even within our own area there's people who, from a Republican background, who would have family members who fought in the World Wars, and that's a given. Okay,
we've covered a lot of territory, lads. Last word, one word to each of you, starting with you, Michael.
Well, it's a busy time, Rowan. We're now into the rearranged council, I call it, rather than super council. There's a lot of work to be done. Reference the Albert Basin and all of the other assets. I think we need to have a long, hard think about how we go forward, how we look at our finances and avoid what could be a catastrophic rates increase, for example.
Why have I since I've been spoken to here by a wise old owl of politics?
No, about the wise old owl, but...
David, your final word this morning.
Listen, we're 5 months away from the new council initiating full power, and as Michael has said, we do have a busy time ahead, and we as a new council, when it takes power on the 1st of April, we need to be ambitious for the district as a whole.
That's your buzzword.
We need to be ambitious for the district.
Ambitious in the new diaspora, so to speak. Michael?
Just all I can say is it will be busy, but looking forward to it, and feeling very confident about it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Boys, thank you very much indeed. The last half hour has flown by. Thank you to each of you. That door will open always for you. You're welcome. Use this programme for the productivity of our area. Okay?
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Michael, take care. David, go well.
Thank you.
Now, that's us for today, and we bid you farewell. I shall be back